What is good, ladies and gentlemen? We are coming back with all things WCWF. We're just waiting for Elliot the Collector to get back in the room. I just sent him a new link, and we are about to get going. So, if you have anything to talk about Forbidden Door wise, AEW wise, WWE wise, we are going to talk about it. Independent wrestling scene, whatever you want to talk about, we are going to talk about probably for the next 30 to 45 minutes. But we are going to talk Forbidden Door, Blood and Guts, and a little Money in the Bank. That's what we're talking on the surface. And then anything else your comments desire, we will be glad to talk about as well. But there he is. We are back, Elliot the Collector. We are now on all of our pages. Very exciting about that.
Yes, we are.
Oh, yeah. We are ready to rock. So we're going to get right back into WCWF. It'll be a two-parter this time. I'll merge, for the podcast version, I'll merge part one and part two. But we are going to jump right into the pay-per-view that was last Sunday, AEW's Forbidden Door. An amazing podcast. We are an amazing podcast.
We are.
Amazing pay-per-view from top to bottom. And there's so many matches. The one thing we often joke about with AEW pay-per-views was that there are so many matches that it is difficult to talk about them all, difficult to basically keep everyone happy. Let's start with the buy-in. The buy-in, I think they might have added a match to the buy-in. The buy-in had three matches. I saw two of them.
Okay.
I missed the very first match. That was Aaron Solo and QT Marshall versus Goto and Yoshihashi. I did not see that match. The second match on the buy-in was Nick Comoroto versus
Comoroto
versus Lance Archer. And then the third match, there were four matches. The third match was Swerve and the Glory. So it was Swerve and Keith Lee taking on El Desperado, and I'm gonna say the Japanese names. I'm sorry, I apologize. Kane Mora.
I think that's right.
That was the Swerve, and then the final match was an 8-man tag, but it actually turned out to be a handicap match because it was the Acclaim and the Boys versus who did they fight? They fought. Oh, I got it here. It was the Acclaim. It was Max Caster and the Gun Club versus Coughlin, the DKC, Kevin Knight, and Yamura. And it was
those are the LA New Japan
LA Dojo.
Right.
I apologize for butchering all of that. Bear with me. It's just anything that stands out before we go and break down Forbidden Door. Anything that stands out from the buy-in.
Well, the only thing that stands out, and I think all those performers are tremendous athletes. Several of them have charisma that can take them to continued success. For me, the only thing out of all those matches that, is sort of like must see is the rap at the beginning, Max Caster's rap.
The Acclaim is so over. We should really dissect this because the Acclaim is so over, and they're so over because of Max Caster, and they're so over because you just got to say it. Scissor me, daddy, is great. It's just a great line. Anthony, what they've done with the Acclaim and the Gun Club is actually really cool. Like I think they gave them a purpose, right? Yes. Wrestling's all about a purpose, and now they gave them a purpose. And I actually did like the Acclaim as a tag team. I liked Bowens and Caster, trying to figure out what to do with the Gun Club. I think this was the perfect mix. I thought it was interesting because the Danhausen song, I had seen that video and heard that song months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just this part of storytelling where now the Gun Club is so mad at Danhausen that they basically leave it to be a handicap match in which for like, what is he, like 62 or something? I don't know how old Billy Gunn is, but he actually looked in the ring really good.
Oh yeah, Billy can
He
still
looked
go.
really good. And so he did they did a great job. The Acclaim and the Gun Club win. There's definitely some storytelling there between Billy Gunn and his sons and the Acclaim. It seems like Billy Gunn that spilled over to Dynamite. It seems the Billy Gunn is choosing the Acclaimed over his children, which is it's just a hilarious thing. I thought they did a good job with that.
There are, you have to have lots of storylines, and some are all going to be more or less important than others. I have a somewhat different opinion. I am pro Acclaimed. I am actually getting more invested in the Acclaimed. Bowens is on the shelf, but Caster's rap is very over. The two of them can absolutely perform. I remember Billy Gunn from the Attitude Era being a bully from a lot of like other stories. For me, he kind of falls into that hardcore Holly JBL group a little bit. So like I've never been a huge Billy Gunn fan. I recognize and respect his talents. He and his sons, especially the way his sons are making the most of their gimmick, it seems totally suited for the Fed to me.
Okay.
So I hope they, my preference would be all three of them, the Gun Club and their dad. I hope the three of them are victims of not having their contracts renewed. I'd like them to go away from AEW, but I would be okay if they remained on television because I think they have a WWE style going right now for them.
So the interesting thing is, and Billy Gunn is 58 years old.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty impressive.
Oh yeah.
So again, going back to that time, which is a whole different era, a whole different place in lore, right? I am under the impression that the bridges that were burned are pretty significant over there. So sure. I don't think that Billy Gunn will be returning.
Probably not. And Billy doesn't have the sort of the status where you say, "Oh, never say never." Yeah, that stuff's reserved for Bruno Sammartino,
right,
Sting,
right.
Because honestly, I'm not even sure Ric Flair could get back into the good graces.
Probably not
these days. So no chance for Billy Gunn.
There's a couple of little things that he has done outside of the ring that kind of makes it seem like Road Dogg Jesse James and him, if you look on YouTube, have done some sit down like audience stuff where they were, because he was a WWE official, Jesse James was for a long time. They were like, they didn't even do that stuff. And you could even tell some of their Q&As is still very awkward because they have different opinions at that time.
Yep.
And believe it or not, when they get together, the Road Dogg is much more of the diplomat in regards to like everybody kind of knows that Billy Gunn's kind of a jerk.
He learned how to be a diplomat from years working for the Fed Corporation.
Yeah.
And credit to both of them. I wish them both success. I just don't want the three of them on my AEW anymore.
But I do love the Acclaim. I think we all agree that we love the Acclaim. Can we quickly talk about what they're doing with Keith Lee and Swerve? Because I still don't know. I haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah.
And I just feel like I don't want to say that it's teetering to the point where it's like we got it, because they still have the Hobbs and Stark story that the two of them will get together. They still have this kind of tension between Keith Lee and Swerve as a tag team. We know they're going to be individual breakout folks. I think they got to get on with it. I think we got to figure this out.
There you go. I expected to have seen a trigger pulled within the last 2 weeks, and the fact that they're still teasing it like they did from the get-go, they haven't teased it any more or any less. It's the same sort of tension with one-upping a move, looking at each other at the end. They need to figure that out. It doesn't seem like those two are going to be right in the tag team title mix immediately. So
they're not going to be a tag team. Just break them off.
Break them up. I agree. Who's the heel in that though? Who would you rather see as the heel?
No. Keith Lee's a huge face. He's over too. People love him. Swerve is this guy where for whatever it is, the because I loved Hit Row. I loved Hit Row in NXT. Hit Row worked. This kind of Swerve trying to be like an individual music mogul type thing falls deaf to me. He needs Hit Row around him. He needs a Hit Row like atmosphere for it to work. It doesn't work as an individual because rappers have entourages. Rappers have other people do it. They have DJs. They have, they have everybody. Like, Hit Row was like this perfect concoction. And now you take the Swerve Hit Row character, you take him out of Hit Row. And then if AEW, now and again, we can't sign everyone. If they had signed them as a faction and bought them in and had them rivaling some other factions, I would be all for it. This particular, I don't know what Swerve's doing on his interviews. Here's my barber and stylist, and I'm going to give you a jack. I don't get it. Like, Keith Lee's just standing there like, what the hell's going on?
Swerve and the Acclaimed, is that work or not?
I don't know. I mean, to me, unless they get on with it, he's approaching Leo Rush territory in AEW. Yeah. Like, we don't know. We just don't know what's happening. Mm-hmm. Keith Lee is just he's such a extreme, rare, and like lovable talent that he goes, put him in the, TNT title picture or put him in the All Atlantic title picture, put him in stuff, and Keith Lee's going to be there. You're going to figure it out. Swerve, I love him as an athlete. I love him as a performer. We got to figure this thing out.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. I think you just summed it up just fine.
Perfect. All right, well, let's get on to the paying matches of this phenomenal pay-per-view. Where do we start? Let's start with Chris Jericho, Suzuki, Sammy Guevara versus Kingston, Yuta, and Yumino. First match of the show. We're just going to go in order.
Well,
Jericho, Guevara, and Suzuki won the match.
Yeah, this match, I really, quite honestly, in some ways, I wish we did a post pay-per-view podcast because
just come right in at him.
Because we film after what we saw yesterday with Blood and Guts. This match was actually pretty forgettable for me because it just started being overshadowed by a lot of the same participants who were in yesterday's show. However, anytime that Eddie Kingston and Jericho are together lately, it's fantastic. It was on Sunday, much like it was at times yesterday. Getting Murder Grandpa in the equation, you can never go wrong. I'd say good way to start the pay-per-view.
Good way, because let's just face it, Eddie Kingston is so over. He could be one of the most over performers as we currently stand in AEW.
No doubt.
There were Eddie chants ever Blood and Guts before they even announced, as soon as they hit music for anyone, there were Eddie chants. And I love it for him as a human being. I love him even more now. We talked about some of the stuff that was happening off the air with Mox, and Mox doing a lot more press in his lead up to getting the interim title. And it was very clear that Eddie Kingston was one of the only people that Mox and Renee trusted to say, hey, man, this is what we need to do to even get Mox straight. Yep. And it was because Eddie Kingston's been through it all. He's been through that, you know what I mean? Addiction and all kinds of stuff. And so the way that he's seasoning his opportunity is amazing. The way that he is over is amazing. He's growing on me. Last night was a good match, I thought, for him. He's growing on me in the ring because you know what it is? I'm going to tell you the truth, Elliot. They figured out what Eddie Kingston does well. They figured out what he doesn't do well, and they just let him do what he does well. Get him a kendo stick and have him beat people up, have him split people open. Yeah, his chops still look like they couldn't hurt, break a window, but still. And we talk about this all the time as well, and I won't belabor the point of talking about this particular match, but good gosh, Chris Jericho is just an absolutely professional. Chris Jericho, you can put him in the ring with just about anyone. About anyone in any company, and that guy is going to make a good match.
This is what I say about Jericho is why I can't argue the fact that he's probably one of the GOATs. When he is a super face over his history, I've loved him. He's been great. Been behind everything he said. when he is a heel like he has been at these points of his career, where he's the Wizard, and then he's the list of Jericho when he's just this obnoxious heel.
Sure.
I don't want to talk about him. I hate him, but that tells me he's great. He
He's
makes me
he
he makes me
he's
love
so
him and hate him. So I cannot take away that I love Jericho, because right now I hate him and I want nothing to do with him. So it's
I,
working.
I love him. I love the pairing with Suzuki. I am higher than most people on Sammy. Um, I,
Yeah, me too.
I just want to figure it out with Sammy, and I know this annoying version of Sammy and Ty Conte. I don't necessarily love the storyline, but Sammy, man, again, like let's just merge last night's match and Sunday's match, and they're just amazing performers. Sammy Guevara is a really good performer.
Sammy is playing the Jeff Hardy role in
Yes,
AEW. That
absolutely.
Yeah, so you gotta give him props for that.
He's
You know,
doing the Lord's work. So a great match, great way to open it off. It rolled into the Ring of Honor IWGP tag titles, Roppongi Vice, United Empire, which is Great O'Khan and Jeff Cobb, and the top guys, FTR, all battled it out. I don't know exactly when this happened, Elliot. You can tell me, because I really don't know exactly when this happened. But we just talked about Eddie Kingston. FTR is over to the point where I think they may be the most, outside of Eddie, and FTR could be two of the most popular guys in the entire company.
no
And I
doubt
don't know
about it.
how it happened. I don't know how this like gradual groundswell of the top guys being those guys, but they are beloved, and and once again they carried a great match. They did a great job.
It is really the illustration of kind of currently the longest terms booking that we see in wrestling right now, because there's been a simmering belief in especially the IWC, but kind of in general, when when FTR was back in NXT, they were underappreciated there. They were clearly some of the best talent that WWE had. How they chose to use them, different story for a different day. But there's been a simmering support for these guys. Really are among the best. But the moment it happened in AEW was when they hooked up with Punk.
Okay.
That's when I think it
Yeah,
really
it
turned.
just turned
They
into the next level. Yeah.
they had fired Tully
Yep.
a week or two before. That was sort of a nothing burger. I think Tully was a little bit too obscure, and they had sort of dropped that story anyway with
Yep.
the Pinnacle, I guess. So, but them coming out with Punk, and probably a lot to do with like how Punk sold them, saying in a tweet that he rode his bike when he was 13, got bullied, and the next day he rode his bike back. They were there, and the three of them spent the entire summer together. And he likened that to his relationship with FTR. He battled Dax in that singles match.
Yep.
That put Dax completely over.
Yeah, it did. It really did.
And then when he had him back, so that's the moment in AEW. Those guys are correct. Maybe with Eddie, the three most over guys,
So over.
with Wardlow being a rung below, but Wardlow not being on TV Sunday and not being on TV yesterday puts him just sort of like one small notch below right now.
He's not where the top guys are. Let's not lose the point as well, as the top guys have collected 3 belts now. They are the Ring of Honor belt champions. They're the IWGP champions, and they still, because of obviously politics, they didn't acknowledge the AAA tag team champions, but they still are those two. Mm-hmm. So they've got a lot of gold, staking the claim this year for the best tag team in the world, as it always seems to be between them, the Bucks, Lucha Brothers. Like it's all kind of this thing, and they are really, really taking advantage of their opportunity.
And for those people our age who are watching this show and see them, they really are the best of the Midnight Express. They live that. They have the Midnight Express and the Hart Foundation, two of the greatest tag teams you'll ever find, and they are a really great mix of the two. And they acknowledge that. They
pay a lot of respect to the industry, more so than a lot. One of the things you mentioned was the Dax one-on-one match. Was Dax and Punk? Was it?
Mm-hmm.
I think the Cash and Dax match also helped them. There was the super long and elaborate tribute to the Hearts, in the ring, like all like move for move. It was like this throwback to this great match, and their respect for the industry and the way that they wrestle, and again the way that they play to their strengths. It just seems to be working. Everything they seem to be doing is working, and so they picked up the gold. Well deserved, huge pop for them. Let's move on to what I think was the first big surprise to me of the night, and that was the All Atlantic Championship. It was a four-way match, as we talked about on our last episode. Ishii gets hurt. They replace Ishii with Clark Connors from New Japan, but it's Malachi Black, Pac, Miro. I think the consensus before the show was that either Miro or Malachi Black walked out with the belt. That did not happen, and we are welcoming our first All Atlantic champion, Pac, the bastard Pac, to on the scene. What did you think about the match? What did you think about the outcome?
Here's what I think about the outcome, and again, with a little bit of looking back, why didn't we pick Pac? That's, I mean, why?
Nobody did. No one did.
And then I sit here in retrospect, why would we have not given Pac his due? He's had some injuries. He's missed time, not like Miro's had recently, but Pac was one of the cornerstones of this company. You know,
Right.
Early on, has never held a title, has never been in a major title feud. So when you bring this in, they all could have won it. It all would have been okay. I mean, short of Connors, which you kind of just knew wasn't going to happen. Ishii was there to represent New Japan, but this was going to crown one of those three the championship. It could have worked for Malachi and House of Black being their first title to that faction. Miro, just returning, could use that rub. He's big, he's bad. Pac is every bit the dominant force that runs just under the radar. I was surprised, but good first champion to have. You know, let's start lining them up. I want to see that title defended regularly with all those guys. There are a lot that can compete for that. Pac's a great first title holder. I kind of wish I had thought of him first.
Yeah, I think it was just, you mentioned it, is the timing. The excitement around Malachi and the House of Black and the excitement around Miro led me to believe one of the two of them. I think I picked Miro to take that match and put it over it. And if you look at the sequence of the match, it looked like Miro was gonna get it done. I don't know. I think the one thing that was difficult for me, and probably why I didn't pick him, is where do we go from here with Pac? Now, yes, we can line up great matches, but there was such a storyline if the House of Black gets it. There's actually a storyline if the Redeemer gets it. He can go one-on-one and redeem people. You know, there was just so many things that I thought the other two could do, and I'll be interested to see. But no, as you mentioned, Pac, super deserving. I think he was also out of action for so long. You know, his comeback to me wasn't as exciting as Miro's comeback, wasn't as exciting as the House of Black. But all of that stuff doesn't mean, as we know from AEW, it doesn't mean that they can't put them all back in the ring again a week from now, you know?
And they're going to have to, because one of the disadvantages of having an hour-long match after a pay-per-view is you don't sort of revisit some of these things. Now, granted, it was a match that was just sort of a pay-per-view that was a feature, and you weren't expecting a lot of these guys to be back at it on Wednesday, considering most of them were from New Japan. But not even addressing the title change. If you're saving that for Friday or saving that for next Wednesday, that's fine. It's a little risky because you just sort of crowned them. So they have to come out of the gate Friday or Wednesday talking about this title, or it's going to start feeling like, what's the purpose of it?
Yeah, and we'll as soon as we get through Forbidden Door, I want to ask you, because you brought up a great point, the significance of having Blood and Guts that next Wednesday, and having a Blood and Guts match that literally was an hour long. They started at 9:00 and didn't finish. So phenomenal match, phenomenal. But it also took a lot of folks off of television. It probably stalled some momentum for a lot of storylines. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's interesting too, because Bleacher Report rated the Pac match an A-. It's a very, very high rating of a match. I'm going to go through fast on this one because I'm just going to be frank. Unless you have a lot to talk about, it was not one that I really focused in on. It's the Young Bucks and El Phantasmo versus Sting, Darby Allin, and Shingo. What were your thoughts on that particular match? The dudes with attitudes is who
The
came out on top.
if you saw it, the purpose of that match was to feature Sting, a 63-year-old man, do a high spot to start it off.
To start the match, they were like, "Where is Sting? Is Sting not going to show up?" And then Sting was behind him. God bless him.
God bless Sting for doing it. He doesn't look necessarily like I've seen some 63-year-old men who shouldn't be doing it do it. He is doing okay so far.
Yeah, he was doing fine.
He's doing fine, and he, of course, is beloved by the fans. Darby and him are going to kind of probably keep going for a while until, So again, kind of like you, I wasn't 100% invested. I'm not a huge Bucks fan. They're carrying the titles right now. I'm kind of just sort of waiting to see the Bucks versus FTR, if that's going to happen, or just whatever. But because I'm somewhat new to New Japan and have gained a lot of knowledge about it since we kind of went to Capital Collision, there's still a handful of guys that I just know little about. So I sort of just watched it, appreciated it. I like Darby. I wince when I see Darby. Yep. I winced big time when I saw Sting. I was like, Grandpa, get back up. But he could do it, and I can't. So I'm not going to say a cross word about Sting. Bucks
looks great.
Bucks are terrific.
Yeah.
But I've shared my opinion with the Bucks. I'll share it again later. So yeah, kind of a match that I watched, appreciated it. Didn't really have a strong opinion one way or the other, and however it ended. Yep.
And I'm not. Again, I share this every week, but I'm not as drawn to Darby as some. I do like Sting, but he's 62 years old. I just want him to be okay at this point. I will say this though: the only time that it really, really shows his age is their stinger splashes. I'm like, come on, the stinger splashes don't have quite the height. Don't have it's just like a running chest bump at this point.
It was early in his TNA run when the last time you saw a really powerful,
really good stinger. Hey, the match got a B on the Bleacher Report reviews. So there you go. Let's jump to the only women's match of the night. The only women's match of the night. It was champion Thunder Rosa, who we love and who we champion here at WCWF because Megan, our heel with heels, loves Thunder Rosa and put us all on to her.
I love her too now. Yep.
And she wrestled Toni Storm. I think we all got this wrong as well, as we thought Toni Storm was going to go over, and she did not. Thunder Rosa won the match clean. It got an A rating on Bleacher Report. What did you think of Thunder Rosa, Toni Storm?
I was fully prepared for Toni Storm to get the belt.
Me too.
And we were even talking last week about does Thunder Rosa start doing
leave
more?
The company.
Leave the company.
Yeah.
Go to NWA. So in a way, very happy for our girl Thunder Rosa. Glad she's still holding the strap. My fear might be, two things. One, does this diminish Toni Storm at all? No, one loss shouldn't do it. But when you sort of set it up for an expectation to win, it might. And second, are they going to start now giving Thunder Rosa a little bit more of a platform? She's earned it as the female champion. She deserves it. But if you watch week after week, still feels like Britt Baker is the most important female on the roster. And she may be
Jade Cargill.
Or Jade Cargill.
Right.
Jade. Well, as far as where we see what you should be doing, yes, Jade needs to be. She just about is.
I think they've even built that story with Stat and Athena and all them better than anything they've done with Thunder.
Oh, for sure.
Stokely and those guys. I just think that Jade's the most important woman performer right now. It was DMD, which is interesting because Thunder. We talk about this all the time. Thunder's carried the title.
Yeah,
but she seems to be an afterthought. Yep.
DMD is still Britt Baker. As great as she is, she's still feeling a little bit crammed down our throats, even though she's not holding the title.
Right. The Owen Hart thing was a bit much to me. They should have gave that to Ruby. And it's just I am still so now I've had several iterations of Toni Storm. Several. And there was a Toni Storm that was kind of the young, busted on the NXT scene. Then she went away. Then it was like Toni Storm comes back to America after she had wrestled in NXT UK for a while. She comes back to NXT, and then she really gets the push. Then she gets put on the main roster over at the WWE. Obviously, that didn't work out, and so now she is obviously gets the AEW push. I have yet to see in three iterations, the three of the four iterations of Toni Storm, in three of the four, I have not seen her really deliver in ring the way that she delivered when she was like this young upstart in the first NXT run. And I don't know what it is. I don't know exactly why that is or what it is, or I don't know if it's just chemistry, people that she's working with. I just don't know. But everything to me in ring with Toni Storm just seems a little bit off. I thought this was one of her better matches, believe it or not. I thought Thunder Rosa did a really, really good job. I don't know where Toni Storm goes from here. I don't know. This will be an interesting
dark elevation for now, which is not a knock. It's not a knock, but
it's not like she's gonna get better. It's not like she's gonna go to a performance center type place and become a better wrestler at this point. I don't think so. I don't know where she goes, and it does. Again, we could talk about a bunch of athletes that we said, I don't know, 6, 8, 3 months, 4 months ago, we didn't know where they were, and now they might have something better than they do now. This seemed like Toni Storm's shot if they were going to put her over, and they didn't. So I don't know what happens.
Yep, it's either a mistake or we'll find out it was just the right way to do things for now. I hope they give Thunder more of a rub. She deserves it.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see what happens, because now, like, in this title run, she's had the Serena Deeb rivalry and she's had a Toni Storm rivalry. Where does she go?
Who's
Ruby?
Does
she go back to Ruby?
There's so. I mean, that's the thing. We always kind of come back to this. There's so much talent who's between a 6 and an 8 who can do it, but there's not a whole lot of 9s and 10s right now, because the one who does has a title. The other one who does, through combination of being over, like Britt, is just had the title. Right. Who do you want to elevate next? If you're not going to give it to Toni Storm, and you seemingly weren't about to give it to Ruby, is Athena the next one? Sure, but then you've got her with. So again, kind of these are not terrible problems to have, but I would love to get a peek at that 6-month piece of paper that Tony's written out storylines to see where it can go.
Well, as of yesterday, and I don't often do this, but as of yesterday, the official AEW rankings has the number one contender at Nyla Rose, 2 Chris Statlander, 3 Toni Storm, 4 Serena Deeb, 5 Britt Baker.
That just reminded me of another one of my favorite female stars, Chris Statlander. She has repackaged herself.
Yep.
She's with Athena right now, but Athena's clearly going to be the one who's going to challenge Jade. I would love to see Chris and Thunder. No,
I think they put the Athena Jade matchup first. Jade goes over. Statlander takes on Jade after. I think it's all together. I think Statlander's the one that beats Jade.
You think Statlander beats Jade?
Not Athena.
Okay. Well, I would then either or. I'd love to see Athena go for Athena and Thunder Rosa. Ooh, that would
be a great match.
That would be a great match. Statlander, I think, she has really improved. She has really worked on her character.
I like it.
She is great on television right now. There's part of me that says, "Wow, are we really going to talk about finally taking Jade down?" Because I almost kind of don't see a scenario where you do it, but that would work.
No, I think you do. I think we're getting to that point. I think we're getting to that point, and I think it's Athena, gives her a great match and all that, but Statlander's kind of way, what I mean, like kind of hanging in the background. It just reminded me too about the AEW Women's division. We thought there was going to be some Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter riff. I still want to see that. I want to see Hayter get a little bit of a push. I think she's really talented. Maybe her and Toni Storm. I think they wrestled before, but I think that'd be another good match.
Do you turn Jade face after she loses, or do you keep her heel?
I personally feel about Jade very much how Megan, our co-host, feels about Ricky Starks, where Jade is clearly a heel and is supposed to be a heel, but I kind of just like her too much. So it's hard for
Mm-hmm.
me because it's like even the stuff she does with the cut the stuff Tony, like I laugh. Stokely, I love. I just it's heelish stuff. I even like Kiera Hogan. I never liked Red Velvet until she became a baddie. So she's been off the air the last couple weeks. I think she might be having an injury. But I think Kiera Hogan's extremely talented. She was like a Ring of Honor champion,
Yeah,
and she never gets any run.
you'd be kind of silly, I think, to break up the baddies when
No, yeah, you
if
can't
and
break
when
up.
Jade. I guess she ought to stay heel for a while, but like we say this every week. She is going to be a hell of a heel, a hell of a face for many years to come.
Love her.
Love her.
All right, we've talked about this a little bit because this is what I was popping for at the beginning of the episode. But the next match is an A+ rating from Bleacher Report, and it is Will Ospreay versus Orange Cassidy. I've already said my piece, but Elliot, what do you think? What did you think?
Yeah, I was not surprised when I saw Bleacher Report's A+ rating. I don't pay too much attention to the Meltzer ratings, but he ranked that the highest. I didn't see if he gave it a star or anything. And again, don't pay attention to that. But the first ranking I saw Monday, that got a 9.2, and it was the highest one on the card. Those guys delivered. Will Ospreay can deliver. I knew he was going to do it. The question was it going to really clash with OC's style of kind of almost sort of just taking a jab at everything? Hell no.
Look great. It looked great.
Those guys look great. I think anyone who saw it said, "Wow." I mean, a lot of people, anyone who was watching it knew what Ospreay could do, and likely knew what Orange Cassidy could do. So they were there to see it for Cassidy to put his hands in his pockets in front of Will Ospreay. Sure, that's great. But they both wrestled their butts off. They entertained the crowd for what it go 14. You don't have time, but it went almost double digit minutes. Exciting from start to finish. The spots, man, Ospreay is devastating looking in the ring.
Yeah.
I wish there is so much talent over in that other federation that I wish I could see Ospreay go up against, but he is the best non-American.
I like where he is. I
do too.
I like where he is at AEW.
Yeah.
I think they can make some great matches there.
I don't want him there.
And I think
I will say an early match recommendation. Go watch a Will Ospreay versus now Gunther, but formerly Walter.
Yeah.
There are some independent shows where they've clashed. That's really the one I truly would want to see, and I can see it on YouTube. I love Ospreay. I love OC. They did great.
I think his style is fitting what AEW is doing right now. I mean, I just think that
for sure.
The one thing that does surprise me, and it was very apparent during the match, is just how physically big Ospreay is. He's much bigger than OC. But usually I get a little bit annoyed at the 2 counts that are like barely, this is it. And then, they kick out and everybody's like, this is the greatest thing ever. Not this match. This match, when they were kicking, I was like, because there were several times where I was like, oh, it's over. It's over. And it was like, great match. And they kicked out and it kept going. And I was like, man, that got me doing the "this is awesome" clapping chant.
There were no fans, despite of how much you might love New Japan, love AEW. No one was going to call that the match stealer. I think because Moxley and Tanahashi were probably going to steal the show. Everyone knows Ospreay can do it, but they didn't think he didn't. I'm sure people didn't think he had a dance partner that could keep up with him.
No, they did it.
But he did.
They did it.
But he did
it. Hey, so Zack Sabre Jr. fought the newest member of the Blackpool Combat Club. Everybody, even to up until match time, was still thinking it could be a handful of people. It turned out to be artist formerly known as Cesaro, Claudio Castagnoli, and the crowd popped like crazy. Zack Sabre Jr. did a good job in ring, but Claudio was the story. He's the newest member of AEW. He's the newest member of Blackpool. It's here. It's happened. One interesting point that got me excited offline was the amount of WWE superstars that tweeted support for Claudio, which I don't think I've ever seen for a debut in another company to have. I think it was double digits number of WWE stars that were like, this guy, yes, this is awesome, let's go. And I'm like, what? And it just kind of shows who that person has been to them for that many years. And it was really, really cool to see. And he delivered in ring as he always does. And he did all the tricks, I just loved it. And I was impressed. And for the not knowing a lot about Zack Sabre Jr., knowing kind of what he was supposed to be doing, I thought it went well.
No doubt, no doubt. I'm thrilled for Claudio, kind of sad for Zach because Zach and Osprey, other than some of the Japanese wrestlers, those two have been on my international radar the most over the last 8 years. I've heard about Zack Sabre Jr. when I started live tweeting wrestling, on Monday nights and started paying more attention to the independent scene on Twitter over the last several years. Zack Sabre and Will Ospreay, and through YouTube, are the two that I said, those are the two I want the most.
I want to see.
I knew very little about New Japan, but seeing those guys, seeing some of the matches they had with Kenny Omega, as I became aware of what was going on in Europe and in Asia, and both those guys have pretty much been working for Japan, but I just knew about them. They were the two I wanted to see get signed with WWE. I'm kind of glad that never happened. Zack Sabre Jr., and this goes for him and Ospreay. If they want to spend some time in America, AEW is obviously the right forum for them. Right. I hope they do. But those guys have really top level talent ability in Japan. So if that was Zach's kind of coming in and coming out party, great to see you. I wish you had been at Capital Collision. And you're welcome back anytime. A really big Zack Sabre fan. Claudio delivered exactly the way I knew he was going to. And because, remember, before AEW, there was one product on TV, and he was a big part of that for a very long time.
Yep,
so
really was.
That's why the pop was so big. And it does not surprise me either that Superstars tweeted that, because by all accounts, he's very popular, very supportive. He's very smart. And the other thing about him is he's considered the strongest man in wrestling, or in WWE. He was considered he was the strongest in the locker room. It's him.
It was also, he had the reputation of being one of the people that they just could never figure out to get right. Like, if you ask anybody over there at WWE, they were like, this guy's a star. This guy does everything. He works hard. He's great. He's got a look that people like, and they just couldn't figure out how to get him the titles. Like, you know what I mean? How to get him the run that they thought he deserved. So he really was like this underappreciated person, even, elder statesman, if you will, for that company. Like, he was the guy. He was the wrestler's wrestler. If you'd asked the wrestler who should get a push, it was that guy. It was Claudio.
I think that person in WWE now is Kevin Owens. Even though he's held some major titles, even though he's been in some featured storylines, I think that's now the Cesaro. He's in a spot right now where he should have so much more, and they can't figure out what to do with him. Even though what they are doing for him is great and funny, Kevin Owens is now my Cesaro. But anyway,
I think it's good. I think it's one of the three. So, I mean, I'm with you. I think it would be Owens. I think it would be Ricochet. And there was one, and I think it'd be Sami. I think Sami Zayn is a person that they still has more talent than displays, because he's just such a character, right? Like, and so
differently than someone like Finn Balor, who I think they know exactly what they have, but they don't have enough confidence in him. Yeah. So.
And it's just also, it's a big guy complex over there. We just named three guys that aren't as big. Kevin's bigger than the other two. So yeah, they just got to figure. We'll see. Let's jump to, and I'm hearing a little bit of an echo. I don't know what I did, but let's jump to the IWGP World Title. Switchblade Jay Wright, Hangman Page, Okada, Adam Cole, baby. The match got an A. Jay White retains. Juice Robinson was the story in the crowd, saying that he's still the champion. He doesn't know what's going on. What do you think? I mean, anytime the Rainmaker shows up to do anything, I've resided myself to being like, that dude is the man. But then I had to text my New Japan expert Ty at the end of the match to figure out exactly what was happening, like who showed up at the end. And so I will. It was. Did you know? Did you know the guy that showed up at the end before he showed up?
Before, no, I did not. Not before he showed up. I'm
All right,
still
hold
trying
on.
to.
I'm saying the guy, but I want. It was a Shibata.
About it.
Shibata
Yeah,
shows up.
I've
The
heard the
crowd
name.
goes nuts.
I've heard the name. I know he's another one of these,
Yeah,
Japanese legends. Along,
legendary apparently.
yeah, on the level with all those guys. So I thought that was cool. I did not know when I saw him who that was until it was said. Um, Ever since Capital Collision, I've been a big Jay White fan.
Me too.
I've
Me too.
watched more of his stuff. He is great. He's one of those talents that could lead a company. Um, Adam Cole, God, gets on my last nerve, but I'm super excited for what the Adam Cole, Kenny Omega, Elite, Undisputed Elite, Bullet Club thing's going to be. So, like, I want Adam Cole in the position he's in, but I don't think he needs a title. Hangman, I knew wasn't going to win it. I thought there was a chance, like I said earlier, if Okada wanted to spend the summer in America and then have a blow off with Punk, or he could have won that title back. I would have liked to have seen Okada stay champion and be in that, AEW interim title match, but that was more Tanahashi's deal. It would have made sense for me to Okada to take the title back to Japan, but that's also where Jay White goes full time. So that story will continue, and New Japan's in a good position going forward by having White the champ. But
Yeah,
yeah, excited, liked it.
I enjoy Switchblade. I really do. I enjoy Okada. Like with you, I knew Cole and Page were just there. They didn't really have, but it was a really good match.
Mm-hmm.
And matter of fact, Jay White probably did less work in that match than some of the others. Okada did a lot of work in that match, and then kind of Jay White kind of steals it at the end. But I'm so intrigued about Shibata. And so Ty texted me after I text him, like, who is this? What's going on? And the music hits and the crowd goes crazy. And apparently Ty texted me he had a near death brain injury and came back from it. And then him and Kenta's rivalry is Stuff of Legends. Used to be a tag team with Kenta and then turned heel to join the Bullet Club at the time. Apparently just a phenomenal chef's kiss for this match. Like people didn't know he was going to be there. He walks down, the music hits, walks down the aisle. They're just going nuts. And so I love where they can go with this. Both New Japan and AEW. I love Jay White. I love what Juice Robinson and like that because they're both Bullet Club members. So if they've got to figure out what they're going to do with that. I was just pumped. I thought that was a good match. It got an A rating. And
why wasn't Kenta on the card?
I don't know. I don't know.
When Kenta was signed by NXT, right around the time when he was signed is when I started really following the spoilers on Twitter and had heard about this guy coming in because I guess him and Finn were kind of close together, and I knew about both those guys. I was so excited for Kenta. I wish he'd had a better run in WWE. Big man complex. He wasn't going to get that. But he is a Japanese legend, and he's been teasing Punk for a long time. So maybe down the road, if there's ever a Forbidden Door 2, maybe we'll finally get that Punk Kenta match we were talking about. But
and some random news as well, not random, but important news actually for New Japan is that Kushida, who was in NXT. He had a run over at NXT, even carrying a belt. I want to say he carried the North American title over there. Left NXT or got released from NXT or whatever it was, showed up in New Japan right before Forbidden Door. And apparently Kushida's a huge star in New Japan. So it's a whole thing going on there with Jay White and like I said, Juice Robinson and Kushida's there now. They've got a lot going on that's exciting. And I will credit, if we don't do anything else, we got to credit AEW for this. Like you and me both it was like a gateway drug for us for New Japan in many ways. So, seeing Capital Collision was a help, but all of that to me was kind of, my interest was sparked by what AEW was doing, even with a little bit of the crossovers that they were doing before Forbidden Door, then seeing New Japan here and just getting, people excited about wrestling that wasn't WWE, I think it was just a big help. So
This will be my call out to any platform: Apple TV, Prime Video, Netflix. Get a TV deal for New Japan to show regularly in America. You'll have hundreds of thousands of subscribers, but probably not a million.
So let's get to the end of the finale of the show, the main event, the interim AEW World Title, Tanahashi versus Jon Moxley. This was clearly a match that was less about the belt and more about these two combatants wrestling each other after so many years. That's what the buildup was, like you said, and I believe you earlier that the belt was basically an afterthought in this one. I'm glad Moxley got the match. I for somebody now that's seen Tanahashi a couple times, just a couple, I'm probably more drawn to some of the other, like the Akadas of the world and so forth. But I think Jim Ross or someone compared him to Bret Hart. I think that's a good comparison. Would you think of Jon Moxley, Tanahashi, after all of these years and all of the build-up, the match rated on Bleacher Report as an A? Obviously, no surprise in the end result, Jon Moxley goes over.
Yeah, both those two are capable of putting on A to A plus matches whenever they want. Tanahashi's been doing it for years. Moxley is in a much different place in his life now than he was maybe this time last year. He has come through it looking great, feeling great. He is. I think I see something in his eyes that maybe wasn't there for a long time. He's healthy, and when he's healthy and he has that character cooking, there are few like Jon Moxley. We got so much of it when he was Dean Ambrose in this lunatic fringe, but what he's been able to do with this since then, he's become the biggest professional wrestler on the planet. And I think he relishes in that role right now. Those two delivered. It was a slugfest. And I'm such a Moxley guy that, I'm glad he has this title. It's the summer of Mox. I'm all for it. What are you surprised about?
Is he? This is where I go off the ledger all the time. Do we think Jon Moxley is the biggest wrestler on the planet right now?
I do.
Honestly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay. Well, let's
put it all in perspective.
Okay.
And we're just talking about right now. Who's the biggest wrestler on the planet right now?
Well, truthfully, honestly, on the planet, it's Roman Reigns, Brock.
That's active. So
Brock Lesnar. Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes. Yeah, biggest on the planet. You got to sort of like think about how you're going to say that. He is.
I like it. No, but I like the conversation because he's big. He's huge.
Yeah, he is caring for now. I mean, what would he be doing had Punk? What match would he have been in if Punk hadn't gotten hurt and it was Punk Tanahashi? He would have been.
So is he bigger than CM Punk right now?
Well, I mean, yes, just simply by default. When Punk and when Punk and Moxley inevitably match up, whether it's going to be in the fall, like September, or if you're saving it for some like end of the year, who knows how long Punk's going to take to get back into shape. That's going to be the featured bout of the two biggest wrestlers on the planet, barring the machine that is Roman Reigns.
Let's do this. Yeah. We will do this for our audience for next week, and we'll have people weigh in. If you were going to make your three biggest is a bad word for this, what I'm trying to figure out, but it was like the three best wrestlers on the planet for you, like the three, like your three most must watch. I'm stopping everything to watch them wrestle on the planet. Who would your three be of all the companies? Any company. Don't do it now. We'll do it next week.
Except I've got my three already. So yeah.
All right, we'll do it next week. But final thoughts on this match. Did the actual match deliver for you, Elliot?
Yeah, every match delivered for. One of the things I found most interesting about this card was there's always a moment in a pay-per-view where you could go to the bathroom, go to the kitchen. Sure. If you miss an entire match or a good part of a match, you're not necessarily going back to it because you just sort of know what to expect. I think most people had trouble finding that moment. It wasn't going to be the last 4, 5, 6 matches.
No, you just had to make a decision.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, you go during that acclaimed Gun Club match, and then you sort of just roll with it.
Darby Allin and Sting, and just call it a day.
It was a great pay per view. You'd be foolish not to put it over. A minus A in my book.
Let's quickly transition to Dynamite last night. I have been starting to watch a lot more Dark and Elevation, and I actually enjoy the show more than I thought I would. They're actually mixing in more promos, and there's a little bit of storytelling in there. But last night, the big story was going to be Blood and Guts. It was Blood and Guts. It was an hour long. It was extremely bloody. Extremely bloody. I am trying to figure out. I'm like Ali, our friend Ali in the chat. That's like, can Moxley have a match where they're not bleeding profusely? Um, but I enjoyed I enjoyed all of Dynamite.
Oh yeah,
But
me too.
the what was your takeaway from Blood and Guts?
Oh, I'm gonna take away. So I'm only like 15% with you and Ali. Like I love a Crimson Mask. I'll take blood.
There were so
And
many of them.
I'll take blood anytime. The more the better. Here's just two things that I can do without, and it's silly. I love chairs. I love tables. I think tacks are really interesting. Kendo sticks, sledgehammers. I don't like the skewers.
Yeah, the skewers are too much.
I think that's dumb. I just think it's dumb. Like you see it in backyard. It reminds me of too much of backyard wrestling. The skewers, and I guess like the fork. It reminds me of Abdul the Butcher. It's great, but like just keep it traditional. No one's raking the head against the fence anymore. That used to open everybody.
They did
up.
some of that. I think that's how Daniel Garcia got busted.
Is that how he got busted open?
That's how Durag Daniel Garcia got busted
but
open
I tell
last
you,
night.
Pile drivers on broken glass.
Yeah.
I could pass on that, and I could pass on skewers. But give me tacks, give me chairs, give me scrapes along the fence. I love blood and wrestling. So
I love the on top of the cage. So give me the on top of the cage stuff that they did. I thought it was impressive. No matter the interesting thing about the blood in a blood and guts match, no matter what they do, I think from here, hence day forward, it's still not going to be as bloody as Stadium Stampede. It was a Stadium Stampede. What was this one?
Chaos in the
whatever it was.
Anarchy in the Arena.
Anarchy in the Arena could have been the bloodiest match I've ever seen in my life. Because again, we thought they messed up. Like they really opened a vein or something. Sad, obviously, on a sad note to see Mike Santana. Santana went down immediately almost in that match and didn't get back up. If you noticed, he was stayed down. Had a lot of medical attention. They got through the match. He did not join the victory at the top.
Did you notice how seemingly well constructed the top of that cage was? Long are the days, with the Undertaker and Mankind. They've learned a lot.
No, they couldn't do that.
A lot since then. But there even seemed to be like plexiglass at one point. I thought there could have been a spot where someone went through plexiglass, but I'm glad they didn't do that. It was a very sturdy, well-constructed ring.
They did the Sammy bump off the top, and and if anybody's going to take it of that group, it should have been Sammy, and he did what he needed to do. Nobody else needed to go off the top of the cage at that age group, and I was really impressed with the match. Again, last night, I thought for what it was worth was a good Dynamite. It was just because it's a 2-hour show and you took a whole hour to do one match, right? You did kind of lose some of the momentum of the storytelling. I do want to flip back, and this is super random, but I think politics at hand had a lot to do with this. If you notice, the main event on Rampage before Forbidden Door was a phenomenal match, and it was Rey Fenix versus Andrade El Idolo. And it was such a great match, but it was also two people that they knew weren't going to wrestle on Sunday and really wanted to give them a chance to showcase themselves, and they did. It was a phenomenal match, and it was a great match for the people that love Rey Fenix and Andrade. It's able for them to show what they can do.
Of which we're both fans.
We're huge fans. But I also thought it was just interesting, like, oh, that's the main event tonight, and then they couldn't be on Forbidden Door, and so I think AEW is having a good moment, man. They're having a good run. They just got to figure out what to do with all the talent that they have, and kind of figure out what to do with some of the stagnated talent that they may have. But
and
that's all.
and
That's always that's wrestling. That's
that's
wrestling.
wrestling. No one there is happy that there is a spat of injuries that has made
Yeah,
managing
the
the
injuries are
roster.
tough.
No one likes that, but
Right.
it does solve some problems, sort of probably on the fly in the moment. But
It really
at at
does. Like
some
we
at
don't have
some
to worry
at some
about
point,
what to do with Red Dragon if they're hurt. So
at some point, you're going to have most of that talent back, and you're going to have sure a few more guys who will have gotten hurt since then. But yeah, there will come a point where and maybe contracts will change. So right now, like you just said, they're having a good moment. Um, yeah, there's a lot you can see from that roster of what the fall, the winter, and the spring could look like. If
I hope
everyone's
so.
if everyone's dream booking in their head, you're seeing all sort because Kenny's going to come back,
Yep.
and everyone else who's been on the shelf sort of more recently. Um, but man, 2023 it's only the last day of June. We're done with the first half of the year,
First
but
half of the year goes by
it's
fast. Good
it's
year.
going to be an exciting next year and a half for AEW, and I'm super looking forward to it.
So let's quickly switch over to WWE. This Sunday is Money in the Bank. I'm I I'm struggling. I will admit on some of these WWE cards, not because of the politics of WWE, just be honestly, just because for me the stories aren't that good. I think AEW has done a really good job with
Yeah,
the stories. The one thing we talked about this often is the one thing I really loved about WWE was Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is not as active. He's not there as much. They're trying to figure out ways to give him rest and fill other things. Last Monday, speaking of some of the stuff that we were talking about with the Claudio appreciation, both Chris Jericho and Daniel Bryan made appearances on WWE television
and
to
Big
give
Show.
props to John Cena for his 20 years. I will say this in regards to now, I do not believe that John Cena is the biggest superstar in the history of WWE, nor do I believe that he's. I think that he's kind of the steady Eddie superstar that was bigger than say a Randy Orton, right? He's a top line guy and was a top line guy for a very long time, but and I think he's a great worker. The thing that's interesting to me about John Cena, and I don't know him personally, I don't know his personal life, obviously a lot of that stuff, but the stat that he's done more wishes for Make a Wish kids than any person as documented in the history of the Make a Wish Foundation, that guy has my utmost respect and will not. It will be hard pressed for me to say something bad about the individual because I know what that does to kids. I know what that organization has done. Uh, and it is a gut wrenching experience. And
Yep.
for him to do not like I I know people with really great hearts, or know of people with really great hearts that'll do one, two, five, and just be like, look, it's an emotional thing to talk to young people that may be looking at a dim part of their life. And you're hoping that everything works out in their favor. For that man to do hundreds and hundreds and hundreds because he knew by doing that it made that kid's day out in and out of the ring. I think he's a great worker. I think he's a good character. I think he's a WWE legend, first ballot Hall of Fame type guy. But the Make a Wish stuff is you will find me hard pressed to find something bad about that guy.
That man hustles. That man is loyal, and I have respect for him. So there you go.
Interesting that he showed up on TV. Let's go through this card pretty quickly because we are already over an hour. Uh, the women's championship match is a single match. Bianca Belair, Carmella. Any predictions here? I mean, I'm going Bianca Belair stays.
Bianca's going to win. I hope she embarrasses her.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know why we're doing that. Ronda Rousey, Natalia. I think Ronda Rousey wins. I don't know why they're doing that, but go ahead. You have any thoughts on this?
I think Ronda's going to win, and I really wish Ronda would get a little more, at least act a little more interested.
Singles match for the U.S. title. I actually think this one's actually pretty interesting. Theory is the champion. He's taking on Bobby Lashley.
Yeah, like it wouldn't surprise me if Lashley goes over. I'm sure there'll be some sort of finish that will have Theory keeping the
Yeah,
title.
some type
But
of MVP shenanigans.
they're both doing really good work right now. Props to Theory and props for Lashley, who are, two of the 6 top guys right now. But man, listen to how we're talking about this. Like, it's not your fault that you're not that interested. It's because the
No,
product, they're not doing a good job right now.
this is a bad card.
This is all on them too. This is all on them, but they're putting it together best they can. That'll be a good match.
Tag titles, Usos, Street Profits. I actually think this will be a good match.
I think this will be a great match. Since we don't know what they're planning on doing, I'd love to see maybe between now and Sunday there'll be some stipulation that they're maybe. I want one of the titles to come off the Usos. I think the Street Profits would be great stewards of a tag team title. So I'm going to go out on the limb and say that they're going to take the Usos down somehow.
Still going with the Tribe. I think they somehow figure it out. I do like the Street Profits. The Viking Raiders are reintroduced as heels, and apparently it's working. So they might be in the picture soon. So I'm gonna stick with the Usos for now because, sure. But I really don't know, and I like the Street Profits better. All right, the 2 big Money in the Bank main event matches. The winner gets the Money in the Bank contract.
So is that it? Are those all the matches before the 2 Money in the Bank
those
matches?
are the ones that are scheduled. There might be some other stuff, but I mean, it might be hard because here we go. Mm-hmm. Lacey Evans, Alexa Bliss, Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, Asuka, Shotzi, and Becky Lynch, all for the Money in the Bank contract.
Mm-hmm. Who you got, Cheats?
It's WWE. That means there are going to be, to me, no surprises. And so it's either going to be Becky. It's probably going to be Becky Lynch, honestly. Because as much as you think they've beaten a dead horse, guess what? They don't lose. Becky Lynch doesn't lose to, like, Shotzi. You know what I mean? So it's going to be – I just think it's going to be Becky Lynch, and then they give her the briefcase. Thoughts?
I can see that happening, but since that's probably going to happen, I'm going to go with who I want to win because I think almost all those women very, very much. I like Alexa Bliss. I like to see her get back on top. So I'm going to pick her knowing that it's most likely to be Becky that goes over.
And my like the dirt sheets and all that stuff, the rumor is Alexa's just basically waiting until her contract runs out, and she's like,
and that's fine, and that's fine. That
so if there's gonna be a wild card, I would say it's Lacey Evans because she just came back, and they were high on her before she left, even though they were giving her that really ridiculous like Ric Flair's line.
I'm picking Alexa because I like Alexa, but yeah, it's not going to be her, but yeah.
And the final match is Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, Omos, Sami Zayn, Riddle, and a wrestler to be determined. Any of these folks, I'm assuming that wrestler to be determined could be Kevin Owens, could be Ezekiel. Like, I don't think it's going to be somebody that we don't know yet.
Yeah, I mean, is there anything planned for the Judgment Day on this pay-per-view?
No, not right now.
No. Okay, well, again, kind of going to go. Well, I like most all those guys. I think I'm going to reward the person who, quite honestly, is doing just the best work, and that's Seth Rollins. I think he'd be great to have the belt for a lot of reasons people have said. I'm actually kind of hoping that last person is maybe AJ Styles because I'm kind of wondering what AJ is doing right now. The moment I felt the feels for AJ this week was in that Battle Royal match they had. Was it on SmackDown Friday? The one where Riddle won. They had a handful of entrances like for Riddle and for Shinsuke. And then at some point, 45 seconds after the bell rings, you realize, oh, AJ Styles, probably the best wrestler in the last 22 years. He's in the match. He's in the match too, huh? When AJ stopped getting his own entrance on TV is a little concerning for me, but whatever. These things go in waves. I want Seth to win because I think Seth's been doing the best work. He just came off of a pretty long losing streak to Cody, but he performed so well in it. And I think what we're waiting to see maybe is Roman versus Seth at some point. So let's get it on.
I'm going to go with the wild card here and give almost the briefcase.
Oh, boy.
Because they just got to figure – look, I'm interested to see what he does with the briefcase. So I think does he need the briefcase? Does any of them need the briefcase? Because I mean, look, if they give it to Drew McIntyre again, I'm going to throw up.
Right.
So
the
I'm going to go with Omos.
Does Omos need the ladder? He might not need the ladder.
He may not need the ladder. We might figure this thing out. Oh, last match and probably the most exciting that we didn't talk about. There is going to be a Kevin Owens Ezekiel showdown.
Give me more of that. That's like the fun.
It's the best thing of the company.
It's the only thing that's making me like laugh out loud. Thing. So
You're right.
Yeah, bring it on.
You're right. And I want it to continue. So I don't want it to end. I want it to be like some type of fake Elias run in or something. Mm-hmm. But they're doing some really, really good work over there. That's probably the best thing they're doing.
Agreed.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are over an hour and 10 minutes. 2 people show. Elliot, you did amazing.
You did
phenomenal. Great work. We will stitch this together for the podcast. So it'll be one podcast episode. If you look at it on video, you'll look at two video points. But that was, I felt like Excalibur. I felt like we had to run through all of the stuff that is coming up, and you did great. Elliot, what is our match to watch as we take this thing home?
Forbidden Door was a fantastic pay-per-view start to finish, but as we mentioned, one match stood out. It was actually what Cheats Pop for. Do your best on YouTube somewhere. Find Orange Cassidy versus Will Ospreay Jr. They stole the show at Forbidden Door on a show that was hard to steal because there were lots of fantastic matches. So find that and then go back and watch some old Orange Cassidy on the independent scene. Go watch some old Will Ospreay Jr. New Japan. Hope those guys maybe cross paths again someday.
That's awesome. That is a match to watch. It's a great match. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to, there's, again, every week before we close, we always say this now. We definitely are not going to do a heel of the week this week because there's just so many heels, so many things going on. Is there anything, Elliot, that lifted your spirits in regards to life? Any life spirit lifting?
Yeah, the face of the week this week is my niece. My niece is 11 years old, and I got a video of her today completing the 50-foot indoor rock climbing wall.
That's awesome.
She's been doing that for a while, and her 2 brothers, one who's her twin, who's 11, one who's 13. Both those boys have pretty good basketball and baseball careers going right now. They're both on little travel teams, but Annie has kept herself busy with rock climbing she's done for a few months. And I got a video today. She's in town this week with my parents, and wherever the indoor rock climbing wall is in Richmond, they took her, and she covered the 50-foot wall. She is truly, of all my nieces, she's my favorite. I have one niece. She is the best. Young Anne, my face of the week. Love you, girl.
That's awesome. We're gonna leave it there. I'll stand by what I said about John Cena. That's going to be my feel-good story. More Make-A-Wish granted for one individual than anyone else. So kudos to you, John Cena. It is important to me. It's important to my family that you do that type of stuff. And so in this world, in this day and age, we need more people willing to put a smile on kids' faces. And he's done that countless hundreds of thousands of millions of times individually, not just in the ring with a big arena, but individually. So kudos to you, John Cena. And,
I hope we made Megan proud this week.
I hope so. Meg, we're thinking about our favorite heel of heels. We're going to get out of here. As always, count it out. 1, 2, 3. Until next time.